Good morning, guys. Welcome back to COVID Computer Camp. We got an exciting lesson lined up for you today. Yesterday we built a robot, and today we're going to bring him to life, which is why I called the lesson "It's Alive." So I'm going to teach you all kinds of different ways to animate a character who you have in here. Animating characters in Scratch is a little tricky with the characters who are there because of the way that they're drawn. Anyway, you're going to find that you have an easier time animating characters that you've drawn yourself because we've drawn this right from the start to work really nicely with animations. We've got it built into component parts that spin and tilt nicely. So you're going to be able to see that when we want to move this guy's arm around and animate it, it's fairly simple to do. We just tilt it a little bit, move it back into its start position. We don't even have to touch this joint part here. It's actually better if you don't. So again, I can move this over, tilt it, and just reattach it to the joint, and I get whatever kind of arm position I like out of that. So what we're going to be doing today is creating a whole bunch of costumes like this. We're going to animate him just by creating a whole bunch of costumes. We're going to have one for his arm up, one for his arm, hands on his hips, one for him pointing left, one for him pointing right, that kind of stuff. And then we can use coding commands to have him switch between those and have different kind of sound effects and stuff happen. It's going to be really cool, I think. So let's get started with that. So everyone should have their Scratch starter file open that has Chromey the Robot on it, plus a couple of sound effects, which if you don't have my starter file, you can always download these sound effects from my website. There's some cool robot sounds I have here that we're going to be using later in coordination with the movements and stuff like that. Okay, so let's get started. I also want to put a fun background on here. I was looking at backgrounds yesterday, and I found a really nice one. I'm going to go choose a backdrop down at the bottom here. There's one that looks like it's inside a spaceship a little bit. I'm just going to type space, and let's have a look at the graphics that are in here. Yeah, there's this cool one here that looks like the interior of a spaceship, and I thought I would put him inside that for this animation just to make it a little more fun. Though the green doesn't really work well with the greens that I already have on the screen here. I wonder if I can change the color scheme at all. I'm going to go to my looks menu and try change color effect. Yeah, I can make the background a totally different color if I want to, and that might make it stand out better. Yeah, something like that maybe. I don't know, I'm playing around with different looks here and seeing what works better. All right, I'm going to go with the blue look for this guy. I could also maybe change the brightness as well, so I'm going to go change brightness effect. I'll make the background a little bit brighter. There we go. Now he's standing out quite nicely. I like that background a lot now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I've built this guy to be one big solid piece. But what we're going to do is actually have his eyes and his mouth not be in the same sprite. Now, this is always a difficult decision to make when you're animating a character, right? So I could do an animation that's all one character, but in each costume, he would have a different eye gesture. So every time he had his hands up, his eyes would be where you told it to be, unless you had a different. So you're going to need lots and lots of animations. If you want one with his hand up and his eyes left, and one with his hand up and his eyes right, you can see how that would get really complicated after a while. So what we're going to do here is actually separate the eyes and the mouth and make them their own sprite, and that way we can animate them separately using different commands, and that'll give us a little more flexibility to do stuff without having a million different costumes. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's get into our drawing utility. So I'm going to go click on my character. I haven't renamed him Chromey, so I'm going to do that first because that's important for some reason. All right, now I'm going to get into my drawing utility by clicking on the costumes button here, and now we can start playing with them. So I'm going to, I believe that my eyes are already grouped with the pupils. Let's have a look here. I can just try moving it and see if they move together. Yeah, that's perfect. So I've got that all in one object. I've got the other eye in another object. So I'm going to click on both eyes. I'm clicking on one and then clicking on the other and then going copy. And now I'm going to go draw a new sprite. So I'm going to go down to the draw menu here. I'm going to click on paint, and I will paste and put those eyes. So what I want is for the eyes to be exactly the right distance away from the center of the screen. This little crosshair is the center of our sprite here. And so if I tell this guy to superimpose himself on the exact place where the other guy was, he'll be able to keep up with that. The idea is whenever I move Chromey, I want the eyes to move the same way, but I can't just tell the graphic go to Chromey, because it'll go to his middle and he'll have eyes in the middle of his belly button, which will be no good. So I'm going to move this around inside here until the new eyes are superimposed exactly on top of where the old eyes are. That's perfect. So that looks like a good spot there. Now I'm going to click back on Chromey and I'm going to delete his eyes, the poor fellow. Now to test and see if this works, we're going to tell Chromey here in the code, actually we're going to tell the eyes to go to Chromey. Let's call this eyes, by the way. We'll just make sure everything's named properly. It just makes it a little easier when you're coding stuff. So here we go. So I'm going to say when I click the green flag, go to Chromey. I'll go to the motion blocks. I'll grab this one here that says go to random position, and I'll rename it go to Chromey. And let's see what happens here. So let's say my eyes are someplace else across the screen here. When I click the green flag, they should pop right back into the right place. And you can see they're not in the right place compared to Chromey right now, because Chromey's not actually centered in the graphic here either. I'm going to try selecting the whole fellow here and try to reposition him. So I'm going to reposition him so that his center is the same as Scratch's center. Then I'm going to click that green flag again, and my eyes are still out of kilter. So I'm going to keep moving them around here until they match where they're supposed to be compared to Chromey's body. It's going to take a little experimentation. Just move stuff along. So now let's try it again. I'm going to move Chromey around on the screen. I'm going to click the green flag. And yes, they got centered properly. The problem is that Chromey's in the front and the eyes are in the back. So let's go add a little bit of code here that says on Chromey, that says when green flag clicked, go to the back. I'll go to my looks menu and grab this block here that says go to front layer, and I'm going to change it to go to back layer. There we go. And then I'll click the green flag. And now Chromey's eyes will match him. Whenever he gets a go to Chromey message, it will send his eyes right over to him. There's still some problems with that I'm going to show you in a second. But that should be the beginning of getting everything oriented properly. Now we're going to do the same thing with his mouth as well. So I'm going to go back to Chromey. By the way, if you guys don't want to do the coding on this, you can always grab my working version of the file or my finished version of the file if you're looking at this tomorrow, and call up all these animations. So all these costumes and stuff that I'm making here, you'll be able to just catch up with me every time I save my file here. So I'm going to paste my save file address into the chat in YouTube right now. And at any time, if you need to catch up with what I'm doing here, just give Maya a shout and ask her to tell me to save the file, and I will get it back to you. And then you'll be able to not have to worry about keeping up with every single step that I'm doing here. Okay, I'm going to grab the Chromey's mouth now. I'm going to copy it, and again, I'm going to draw a new costume. So I'm going to go to my paintbrush, paint a new costume, paste it. And now I'm going to delete Chromey's mouth from the original robot. And let's move it over so that it's right on. So we're going to go back to the mouth. I'm going to rename it mouth. And let's try moving it over until it matches up with wherever Chromey is. Let's get Chromey back to the middle of the screen maybe too, so that just to avoid confusion here. So I'm going to tell him go to the center of the screen, go to 0, 0 when I click the green flag. Okay, now Chromey's in the middle of the screen and his eyes are matching him. Now I just have to move the mouth over a little bit to match up with where the mouth to match up with where Chromey is. So I'm just going to slide it around a little bit with my arrow tools until it's exactly where I want it to be. That's looking pretty nicely centered there. And I'm going to do the same thing with my code here. I'm going to say when green flag clicked, go to Chromey. And that should work nicely. Oh, yeah, so again, it's not coordinated properly. So you got to click that button, tell him to go to Chromey, and now we're going to move him in relation to Chromey again. So I'm going to keep moving him. keep moving that mouth until it's properly centered. And if we do this, eventually we'll get it in the proper place. So we're just trying to tell it, you are in the same place as Chromey, except a little bit up and a little bit to the right of where he is, right? And then whenever we tell him to go back to that, he should go back. So let's move Chromey around, click the green flag, and his body, well, his body's following him, but we're telling him to go to the middle, which isn't letting us test this. So let's try that again. I'll move him and click the green flag, and yes, his face is following him around the screen. So what's awesome about this is now we can start to animate the different parts of it. If I go over to my eyes here, for example, I can go draw a couple of eye costumes. So let's go do that right now. I'll go to my costumes. I'm going to zoom in on my eyes a little bit. And I'm going to duplicate this costume. I don't want to move the eyes around. I'm only going to move the pupils around. So let's ungroup the eyes right now so that the pupils are different pieces. I'm going to go ungroup, and I'll click on the other guy and go ungroup. Now I can move the eyes around as their own unit. Now this is the default eye, so I'll just call it default. Now we're going to make a copy of it. I'm going to right click on the eye and select duplicate. That'll make a copy of him. And that copy I'll call look left. And I'll have his eyeballs looking to the left like that. I'll duplicate it again. And I'll call this one look right. And I bet you can guess what I'm going to do. Just move the eyeballs to the right. And we'll also do some weird googly eyes. Let's do a cross-eyed maybe. Duplicate. And we'll call it cross-eyed. So we'll move both eyes to the middle. And we'll do one more, maybe we'll call it wacky eyes or something. Oh, I gotta unzoom here. And we'll call the last one wacky eyes. We're trying to label everything so that when we give it costume commands, we'll know what to do. So I'll have one eye this way and one eye down here. Maybe that looks kind of goofy, eh? All right, I love that. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually have Chromey cycle through these eye rotations randomly. There are going to be times when we tell, like when we move left, we're going to have him look to the left in the same direction he's walking. But just when we're not doing much of anything, I'm just going to have him randomly change between eye animations. So I'm going to go when green flag clicked, forever. I'm going to, underneath the go to Chromey, we're going to add a forever loop. So let's go grab a forever. I'll maximize this and change our magnification a little bit. And I'll say, we're going to have it happen just every once in a while, kind of randomly. So I'm going to add a wait 1 second command. And in there, I'm going to put a random number. Pick random from, now I've got 5 different costumes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll go random number from 1 to 5. And then he'll pick a random costume. Actually not picking a random costume, he's just wait. Okay, I think I said this wrong. So we're actually waiting a random number of seconds from 1 to 5 seconds, and then we're just going to go pick, so we could pick a random costume if we wanted to, or we could just say next costume and have him cycle through it. So let's actually have him do a random costume. I'll go switch costume to, and here under wacky eyes, I'm going to put another random number that's 1 to 5. So if you want him changing his eyeballs faster, we can go like 1 to 3 here or something if you want. And then we'll have the costumes be 1 to 5. Let's see what that looks like. We'll maximize our screen, click the green flag. I'll just save my file here. Well, I don't think that's working, so let's have a look here. Are my eyes, in fact, moving around? Yeah, they are. They're randomly moving around. Beautiful. All right, that's just going to add a little bit of life to this guy. Now, the next thing I want to do is we're going to make our robot move from left to right. And so I want to coordinate this so that the eyes move left whenever I move left. I'm going to show you guys the wrong way to do it first, and then I will show you the right way to do it, okay? Because it took some experimentation, and I actually found that my original idea for how to do this didn't work, and I found a much more clever way. So let's go back to Chromey again. We're going to start coding him to move left when I go left. So I'm going to grab a block here under events that says when a key is pressed, and I'm going to change that to say when left arrow key is pressed. Now, so the wrong way to do this is right in here, I can tell him move left, right? I can go move or change your X position. Let's do that. Change X by, so we're moving left. That'll be -10 to move us left by 10 pixels. Now, when I do that, you can see that my eyeballs are not going to move along with me. So we need to send a message over to the eyeballs telling them to move left as well. So right in here, I can go into my events menu and broadcast a message that says move left. New message, move left. And I can tell the eyeballs every time I move to match where my body is. So when they get a message that says move left, they are going to move left at the same time as him. There's a little bit of a coordination problem with this, and I'm going to show that to you in a second. So when I receive move left, we're going to have him move or change his X position by -10. So that works reasonably well, but let me show you what goes on here. So I'm going to click my green flag, and I'm going to tell him to move left. It's actually working okay. When I was doing this yesterday, I found that I would move my body and then the eyes would take a second to match what was happening in my body. So what I did eventually was I changed the code around so that when I hit the left arrow, all it does is broadcast a message, and then everyone gets the message all at once. So I'm going to go, when I hit left arrow, I broadcast a move left. I'm going to duplicate that and say when I move with the right arrow, I'm going to broadcast a message that says move right. And then I'm going to have all my mouth and my eyes and my body all respond to this message by changing their X coordinate. And it'll all happen simultaneously when you do it this way. So I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go, when I receive move left, change your X by 10. And I can copy this over to my eyes and over to my mouth just by dragging it on top of them. Or you could remake this code if you wanted to. So I'm going to go, when I receive move left on my eyes, and I'm going to do the same thing here on my mouth as well. So I've got this code twice on my eyes. I don't need it twice because I already kind of did this. All right. So that works nicely for the moving left. Let's do the same thing for moving right. When I receive move right, change your X by 10. And we're going to drag that over to the eyes and over to the mouth so that we have the same code on both our characters. Let's clean up the blocks, make sure and it doesn't look like I copied this properly. Sometimes when you're copying files like this, it's a little bit tricky. I've shown this to you guys before. I'm going to try that one more time on the mouth, which didn't get the transfer here. So I'm going to grab this move right. I'm going to drag it over the mouth, and when it's hard to do with the screen extended this way. Let me do it this way. So when I move my cursor on top of the mouth, you'll see that it wiggles a little bit. That tells you that when you let go, it will actually copy it and move it over there. Okay, so let's clean up the blocks here. Yeah, there I've got all 3 blocks set up the way that I wanted to. So now we should be moving properly with our eyes and our mouth. Let's give it a try here. Click the green flag. I will move to the right. And I will move to the left, and everyone's still part of the same unit here. That's beautiful. Now I can do some extra stuff. I can tell my guy when I'm moving left, I can tell him to put the costume on for his eyes to move to the left too. So I'll go to my looks menu. I'll go switch costume. So when I move left, I'm on the eyes, sorry. When I receive a move left, switch costume to eyes left, look left, and I'll do the same thing here with move right. I'll change the costume to look right. And so that'll temporarily change the look to look left, but then it'll go back to the random because it's still changing your eyes randomly every once in a while. So it'll temporarily take over his eyes, make them look left, and then they'll resume looking randomly when you stop doing that. Let's maximize our screen and have a look at that. Then we'll have another break. So I'm looking left, and when I move right, I'm looking right. And that looks a little more realistic. He'll still, every once in a while, pop his eyes in a different direction when he gets a command telling him to do a different eye movement. But I think this looks really good. Okay, we'll take a little break here and talk to our audience on YouTube, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so during the break, some of my viewers on YouTube pointed out something that's a little glitch in the program, which is that when you try to move left, your body goes off the screen, but your eyeballs stay there, and your eyeballs and your mouth get disconnected from where they were before. So I fixed that in the code here. This is an optional part that you don't necessarily have to do. Let me go over to my live screen here. So the problem is that with the code the way that I set it up here, let me demonstrate this for you guys again. So when I move to the right and left, the eyeballs follow me until I get off the screen, and then they get disconnected from the body and everything gets messed up. So I've done a little bit of code here that will fix that. And you can see I put it inside an if statement. I said that if your X position is greater than minus 230, then we're allowed to move. So only if you go too far to the left, your X position will be more than minus 230, and you won't be allowed to go. And that'll constrain your movement so that you can't go off the screen. The same thing for moving in the other direction. If X position is less than 230, then change your X by 10. There we go. So let's now we have to do the same thing to our eyes as well. So I'm going to drag all the code over to my eyes and to my mouth. And I should have all the code there now. Let me make sure that I'm looking at my big screen here so it'll be easier to transfer over to my mouth. Okay, let's go double check this and make sure that everything's looking the way that it's supposed to here. So yeah, I've got a new move left and move right script here, so I don't need the old one. Oh, I do need to change my costume to look left inside the eyeballs. Okay, hold it. So yeah, you guys kind of mixed it up on me here by making a special request, and I'm all out of. Okay, so this is what it should be looking like. My eyeballs have a move left command and a move right command. I did the move right command wrong. Let me just delete everything here. So we should have, when green flag clicked for this guy, then we'll have a move left and we'll have a move right as well. Back to the eyeballs. Man, I'm confusing you guys, aren't I? Okay, and this is what it's going to look like. Switch costume, looks. Switch costume to look left, look right. Wow, how did this get to be such a mess all of a sudden? All right, so you guys who are watching this in a recorded broadcast, just pause right now and see if you can duplicate this for the eyes. So we're saying if I'm too far to the left, don't let me move any farther left. If I'm too far to the right, don't let me move any farther to the right. We're doing it for all three objects so that they're all coordinated. Now let's give it a try and make sure it's working. So I'm going to move to the right here and try to go off the screen, and it's not going to let me. I'll go over to the left, and my mouth is still messed up here, eh? It's because it's just going over a little too far. So let's constrain him a little further. We'll change that X number to maybe minus 220 and positive 220. So it's just a matter of playing around until you get this figured out. I'll go save. And I'll do the same thing here. Minus 220. Positive 220. Sorry to be confusing about this, guys. This is actually not the interesting part of the project. It was just us getting stuff set up properly. So green flag. Let me try going off the screen. And my mouth is still moving off the screen, eh? What is wrong with this mouth here? The code hasn't been changed. Oh, I didn't copy over the code for the mouth. Okay. So let's do that right now. I'll move my my constraining script over to the mouth. I thought I had done that already, but apparently not. So let's move left and move right can go over there as well. It's a little tricky to move stuff. Oh, now I got move right twice because of the way that the screen is set up here. move left, move right. So I've got a move right script here. Let's get the move left script over there as well. Okay, so my mouth is constrained now the same way that my body is. We'll get rid of the other script. We'll make sure my X position when I move right is positive 10. Yeah, everything looks good here. I'll save my file one last time here. Okay, and let's test this again. I think it should be good now. So I try to move them off screen. Oh, and he still gets off kilter here a little bit. Wow. We're going to have to do some playing around with this code. I think the idea is to stop him. We're going to have to go with a much smaller number to not let him move left or right. So I didn't realize the can of worms we were opening up here. I'm going to change all those X positions to -200 and positive 200. And we're going to deal with this. We will get this figured out, guys. We're going to persevere here. 200, positive 200. -200. And I've got two move lefts here, which is kind of confusing. And with the mouth, we'll do the same thing. 200, -200. Okay, cross our fingers, guys. Okay, green flag. There we go. So he's not allowed off the screen now. And so we shouldn't have any alignment problems anymore. It's weird that he moves for, oh, it's because he's not perfectly centered in the sprite here. So anyway, our problem is solved here. And his eyes and mouth are staying attached here. Okay, beautiful. Okay, I think we're ready to move on here. All right, the one thing I wanted to show you for the mouth is we can make our mouth talk now if we want to. Let's go over to our mouth sprite, and I'm going to go to his costumes, and I'm going to create a second costume here. Call this one mouth open, and we'll do a second one here called mouth closed. All right, and now we can record ourselves saying something, and we're going to use an animation here to have him talk every time that we want him to say something. We're just going to have him move through an animation a couple of times to, yeah. Okay, so let me show you how this is done, guys. So I'm inside the mouth. I'm coding it right now. The first thing I'm going to do is record myself making a robot noise. Now, you can have more than one robot noise if you want. And you can have a different keystroke attached to each one. I'm just going to do one of them here that says, I am a robot. So let's do that. I'm going to record. I am a robot. So I said it in the most robotic voice that I could. Let's play it back. I am a robot. There we go. Good. Now I'm going to add the robot filter to it. I'm going to press this. Robot. I am a robot. Now that's sounding cool. That's excellent. So we'll call this I am a robot. And we'll use a bit of code to get his mouth to move at the same time that he's talking this way. So the first thing we need is to go back to our costumes. And we made a duplicate of our mouth. And we're going to make the second mouth, the closed mouth, a little narrower. We're just going to pull it in tighter like this. That looks good. And now he's going to flip back and forth between these two when he's talking. You could do a more elaborate mouth animation, but I think that'll work quite nicely. So we're going to tell it, when I receive a message that says talk. So let's go when I receive, which is an event. We'll do a new message that says talk. When I get a talk command, we'll go next costume, and we'll just do this forever. We're going to create a little loop here that'll keep him talking for the entire time that he's talking and then stop him when he's done. So we'll go looks next costume. And then we'll have him wait. We'll go to our control blocks, and we'll tell him to wait 0.2 seconds, which is a nice little animation that goes pretty quickly. All right, so when he receives that message, he'll start talking, and let me show you what that looks like. I'll just click on it, and you can see there he is doing his little talking thing, and he'll keep doing that until we tell him to stop. All right, so now I'll trigger the talking. Well, we can do it any way you want to. I'm going to tell it to talk when I hit the space bar on the computer. So I'm going to go when space key pressed, which is an event. I'm going to say broadcast a talk message. So we're going to go to our events. We'll go broadcast talk. Let's shrink that so you guys can see it better. And then we'll have him say whatever he's going to say until he's done. So we'll go to our sound menu, say play sound, I am a robot, until done. It's important that we use the until done because we want to make sure this sound effect is completely finished before we cut it off. And then we're just going to do another command right after here that says stop talking. Or, you know what we can even do is just go stop all sounds. So we're going to play the sound and hold it. Play the sound and then stop. Hold it, broadcast, talk. Oh, no, we have to stop, change the animation. That's why I did it this way. So we're going to do another broadcast here that says stop talking. So let's go to our events. We'll go broadcast, a new message called stop talking. I forgot what I did here. And when I receive stop talking, so when the computer gets a message that says stop talking, all we have to do is stop all the other scripts in the sprite. So that'll break us out of this loop and any other loops that we're in right now. So we'll go stop, which is under towards the end of the control blocks here. Stop, not stop all, but just stop other scripts in this sprite. And that will stop this loop. So let me show you what that looks like. I'll hit my space key.
I am a robot.
And you can see when he's finished talking, that talk animation stops.
I am a robot.
And so you can have all kinds of different talking animations going here. That will work quite nicely. Okay, so we're ready to start animating the body a little bit, and that's what we'll be doing next, guys. Okay, so we got things working quite nicely. We've got our robot talking. We've got his eyes moving around. Let's do a few animations. We're running out of time here, but we're going to do a couple of quick animations for our body here, and I'll kind of show you how that works. So let's get right to it. Okay, so we're back on Chromey the Robot. We're not going to look at the eyes or the mouth anymore. We're pretty much done with that. And so let's do some poses to make him do something cool here. So we've already got him moving left and right across the screen, which is beautiful. Now we're also going to create some poses here. So we're going to attach these poses to number keys, basically. Now, if you were doing like a digital storytelling thing with this guy, you would have basically these blocks of code happen in a synchronized way. First we would do the one, then another one, then another one. But we're just playing around. We're kind of making a software toy here more than anything. So I'm just going to attach each movement to a number key, and we'll see how many we can get done in the next 15 or 20 minutes. We'll just blast through this as much as we can. So the first thing we want to do is set up a default movement for him. So just a way that he's just going to stand that doesn't look too obnoxious. So I'm going to go to my costumes here, and I'm going to set him up so that his arms are at his side. Now this is the part where it gets a little tricky if you guys aren't paying attention. So I really want everyone looking carefully at what I'm doing here. So my goal is to get his arms at his side here, right? Now imagine it from the perspective of these joints here, right? These are the only parts, any part that is going to turn is going to be in relation to this joint. So if I want his shoulder moving here, I'm going to bring his arm down to here in a second. I don't really need to highlight his shoulder, but I need everything below the shoulder highlighted. So I'm going to grab my cursor, draw a loop around this, and now I can move everything below the shoulder all as one unit. So let's do that. I'll tilt it until the arm is exactly the angle that I want it. I'll move it over here. Now it's gone to the back of my guy, which is no good, so I'll bring it to the front as well. Okay. So let's have a look at this now. Okay, now I need to straighten this arm out. So I need to select the parts below the elbow here. So I'm going to grab the arm, but I also have to grab the fingers. So I'm going to hold down. I can't really draw a loop because I'll grab the background part as well. So I'm going to click on the arm, and I'm going to hold down the shift key, which means I'm adding to my selection. So shift key, and then click on one finger, click on the other one. Now you can see that these parts are moving as one unit. I can straighten these out the way that I want, make sure that they're set up properly, and there's my arm at my side, which looks pretty good. Let's do the same thing for the other arm. I'll grab it. Well, actually, what I'll do is I'll straighten out the arm before I do the other movement, and then we don't have to worry about having to isolate those fingers and arm. Now I'm going to grab everything below the shoulder, and I'll spin it and move it back inside the arm joint. Maybe I'll twist these fingers a bit. So it's always just about selecting the parts that you're going to turn, rotating them a little bit, and then moving them back into position. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to it, but eventually this should make sense to you guys. Okay, there's my robot in his default position, and I will call this default. There we go. Now we can start making movements off of this one to make him do different stuff. So let's create a command here that makes him put his arms up in the air. So, okay, first of all, we'll tell him to go back to this default position whenever I hit the 0 button. So we're going to go Events. When space key pressed, change it to a 0. Oh, where's my 0? Right here. And I'm going to tell it switch costumes to default. Okay. Now for the next one, I'm going to tell him to put his arms in the air. So I'm going to need a couple of animations to do that. And let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'll go back to my costumes. This is all going to be about switching costumes around. I notice that my arm in my default pose here is in the wrong position. It needs to be in the back. So you're going to have to play around with these layer orders a little bit sometimes. Let's say move to the back. Okay, there we go. Now it's properly positioned. Okay, so we're going to tell him to put his arm in the air. We don't want to change this pose. This is the perfect pose already, and we never have to do anything with this again. So before we do a new pose, we always have to make a copy of the one we have here. So I'm going to right-click on it. I'm going to say duplicate, and now I have a second pose called default. I'm going to call this raise arms 1, because I'm going to be using a couple of poses to raise his arms. As many as you want, really, but I'm probably going to be using just maybe 2 poses for this. So I'm going to grab his left arm, rotate it maybe halfway up. Oh, I don't want to grab the shoulder. I want that in one place. So grab his arm, move it, rotate it about halfway up here, like that. I'm going to do the same to the other arm. Rotate it. Oh, I got the shoulder by accident again. Let me save my file. I'll rotate. There we go. That's looking good. So that's my second animation. Now I'm going to do a third animation where he bends at the elbow and moves his arm up. So let's go duplicate. Actually, I'm going to do another one where he snaps his fingers a little bit too. So I'm going to grab everything below the elbow, rotate it, and move it up here again. And let's do the same with his other position here. Rotate, like this. And I'm going to do one last one that's identical, except his fingers are closed. So we're going to have him kind of snap his fingers a little bit. This will be cool if we ever want to do something where the robot is dancing. And I think that's what we're going to do. I'm going to keep moving on, working on this file on Tuesday when we get back to our lesson again. Okay, there he is with his fingers closed. All right, so now let's maximize this. Oh, actually, we can't see it. So I'll just have to show you inside this window here. So there's my body, and I've got, I don't think that I made the proper copies here. Here's one, here's another, here's another. I did, oh yeah, I do. This is all good. So these aren't named properly. We'll call this one arms up 1, arms up 2, and then arms up 3. There we go, good. All right, so now we can cycle through these and it will make him look like his arms are raising up. Let's go back to our code. We'll go when I hit the number 1 key. So let's go to our events. When I receive, or sorry, when I press a button, when I press the 1 button, we're going to have him raise his arms up in the air. So let's have him go through the costumes and just put a delay between each one. So we're going to need a 0.2 second delay, which seems like about the right speed for animation. We're going to go to our costumes, looks. We're going to go switch costume to arms up 1. Wait 2 seconds. Now I'm going to duplicate these 2 pieces of code so I don't have to grab them again. Right click, duplicate, switch to arms 2. Now I'm going to right click again, duplicate, switch to arms up 3. And I'm going to have to snap his fingers a couple of times. So I'm going to go one more time, back to arms 2, and one more time back to arm 3. There we go, and now he's going to kind of snap his fingers. So I'm going to try that out. Let's go to our default position, which is 0, and then we'll hit the 1 button. There you go, beautiful. Now we're going to add a sound effect to this as well. So I've got some sounds already preloaded here. Let me show you the sound that I've got here for his arms moving around. It's called, I think I renamed it in the file that I gave you. I just called it like robot arms or something. Now the problem is there's a couple of sounds in here, but we want just a part of this sound. So I'm going to show you guys how to cut this sound and turn it into a new thing. So I'm going to I'm just basically going to drag across this sound effect. And as soon as I click my mouse down, you'll see that I get a little handle here that will let me isolate part of the file. So I'm going to drag it over to just after that first arm movement sounds like it's done. And I'll hit the play button and preview it. Now what I like about that is it's actually 2 different movements, like and then and there are 2 arm motions in here, so that might look cool. So I'm going to turn this into a new audio file by clicking copy to new, and I'll call this arms up sound. There we go. So let's go back to our code, and we'll tell it right away when I hit the 1 button, we're going to start that sound. We don't want to play till done, because we don't want to wait around for that sound effect to be done before we go through our animation. So we'll start that sound. Let's try it out here. We'll go back to our default, 0, hit the 1 button. That's pretty cool. And so every time we move, we could add a sound effect to it as well. Let me go back to my sounds. We'll find a shorter sound for his default sound. Maybe this one here. Let's see what just this part of the file sounds like. That's good. So I'm going to make a new sound out of that. I'll go copy to new, and I'll call that one default sound. And so I can have him do that in my code here when I press the 0 button. So I'll go switch costume, and we'll go start sound, default sound. Let's look at that again. So press 1, and I press 0. I think that first sound effect, the one of him raising his arms, is a little bit too long. So I'm going to go in and edit it. I'm such a perfectionist. So here's my arms up sound. It goes,
I am a
whoa,
robot.
I did it. So I'm just going to have it end maybe a little bit earlier. I'm going to delete this part of the file and try playing it again. I think just the first part is what I want. I'm going to delete that. Let's listen to this. Yeah, that's what I want. Listen to this. That sounds better to me. The other one was stretching a little too long in time. So let's try that again. I'll press 0. Beautiful. And you see how it kind of coordinates with his arm movements? All right. I'm going to get a sound effect going for when he's moving as well. I've got a different sound here that says, in my version, it's called robot hand, but I think I called it robot move or something. Listen to this. So we're just going to, it's a little kind of like a drill sound. I'm just going to grab a little bit of this sound. I'm going to go copy to new, and I'm going to call this move. Okay, let's try playing it. I actually don't like the way it starts quietly. I want it to start right in the middle of the movement sound, so I'm going to delete the beginning of it. Let's try it again. That's what I want. That's perfect. So let's go back to our code, and we'll tell Chromey whenever he moves left or right, we'll start that sound, the move sound. So when I move left and when I move right, we're going to play this move sound. Let's try this out here. That's kind of cool. like it. It's kind of fun. So again, this isn't really a game, it's more of a software toy, but I'm just demonstrating to you how to use these animations to do some really cool stuff, guys. It's 11:05. We're starting to run out of time here. What I'm going to suggest is, I don't really have a great lesson ready for Tuesday yet. What we could do is keep working on this stuff on Tuesday, and then we can do a little bit of music and do something where we get this robot doing a dance, basically. That's what I think that's what our mission should be, is to program this guy to do a funky little dance thing. And so I'm going to do a few more dance moves for him on Tuesday. I'm going to get him lifting his legs up in the air and kicking and moving his arms out and doing some other fun stuff. So we're just going to work on creating a whole bunch more poses. You guys can try this at home as well. You basically know everything you need to know now to get stuff going. And so I'm going to make a bunch of poses for him on Tuesday, and then I'm going to then we're going to set it to music, and we'll get that going. I think we're going to be seeing more of Chromey here. We're going to get him working on some. Let me save my file here in case you guys at home are eager to see it again. So we're going to be using Chromey in future video games and stuff like that too. I really like this character. He's very posable and really cool, so I think we're going to be using him again. So in the meantime, I think that'll do it for now because we're running a little bit over. I really like doing this stuff. Let me know if you like it too. You can shout out to me in the comments or send me an email at info@chromeworks.ca or reach me on Discord. I am very findable, guys. So in the meantime, I wish you all a great long weekend. Those of you who don't have a long weekend on Monday, I'm sorry there's no stream on Monday. But here in Canada, we are celebrating Victoria Day. So I will be taking the day off. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you.